The Department of Health is monitoring 2 more COVID-19 variants while the country's economy tries to bounce back from last year's slump. As the Philippine Genome Center is continuing its surveillance, the country recorded today the highest number of daily cases so far this year. Will Filipinos be able to handle the threat of more infectious COVID-19 variants? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. Welcome to this Friday edition of The Chiefs. And joining us tonight, of course, are Lucy Cruz Valdez, the head of News 5. Hi, Wasing.
Hi,
And also Ana Marie Pamintuan, the editor-in-chief of the Philippine Star from the port area in Makati, in Manila. She's supposed to be coming in a few minutes. There you are. Hi, Ami.
There she is.
Hello.
Zoom nga yung ano.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good luck sa Friday traffic in sa port area. And then, and then we will be having Robbie Alampay as well in a few minutes. There's Robbie.
There he is.
Present.
From Reliance Street in Mandaluyong. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and happy weekend.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So what are the big stories tonight? Well, aside from Trump finally saying, well, he didn't really say it.
He finally conceded.
Well, I don't know if you call it conceding. He never admitted losing. He just said that he will have a transition of power. But
Well, that's an admission of defeat.
That's conceding already, at least.
No, it's an admission that Congress gave him the count. But he could and probably would still contest the count, which and for that he would go back to whether the state counts count to begin with. You know what I mean? It's probably laying the groundwork for a future assault on the county. He never said that we
But I think
lost.
it's a little too late for that, even if he tries.
Transition na.
Kasi even now, they're already talking about filing cases against him left and right? So, and he's already, in a way, asking for some sort of immunity outside of, the immunity he had as president. So, parang he's really also preparing to move forward as it is.
Well, interestingly, Bloomberg has this story. Bloomberg has this story of Trump studying several potential preemptive pardons
Options,
including one for himself.
For himself.
Right. Unahan na niya. I will pardon myself. Okay yun na. I hereby grant pardon to.
Para na lang kung ma-impeach siya. He might be impeached again. He might i-initiate na naman daw ng impeachment, di ba?
And I think the messaging also, US media were saying far-fetched naman mangyari yung invoking the 25th Amendment or so on, diba? But the fact that people were talking about it, they're saying also got to Trump. Now, if we're going to talk about this and letting the vice president take over, letting your entire cabinet remove you, must have...
Kaya admission na wala lang formal concession. Wala lang siyang formal concession.
Well, he never
basically hindi niya maatim yun.
He never said that people have chosen. He never said that people have chosen. He never said that we lost that.
Yeah, if you just read the headlines on the internet now and on social media, it says Trump concedes. But he basically just conceded that Biden will become president. But he did not concede that he lost.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
kasi that would invalidate all his statements in the past few weeks. Ami, where's the segue?
Isa pang problema natin, yung crowding na nakita natin.
Ayun.
Ang taas-taas ng COVID na dyan sa US With all that mob, sigurado ko, it could be another super spreader in Washington pa, in the capital.
No, but in LA, the death toll has reached 4,000 plus in just one day. Imagine.
Kaya and they have reported na the new variant. So ayan ay segue.
Yes. Ayan na, variant.
Okay.
Galing mo talaga, Sammy.
If you do remember our introduction, we still want to talk about COVID-19 and the new variant coming from the UK. And so for our first guest tonight, we bring in the Philippine Genome Center's Executive Director, Dr. Cynthia Saloma. Dr. Saloma, thank you for joining us tonight.
Hello, good evening po everyone.
Evening,
Good evening,
Doctor.
Dr. Saloma.
Well, I had a short discussion with Dr. Saloma just before we went on air, and I was pleading to her to try to make the terms simpler. Kasi we're talking to the Genome Center here. So for our benefit and for the benefit of our viewers. Doc, let me start off with this. We understand that the Genome Center sequenced mga 305 positive patients to look for the new UK variant if they are present in those 305 and the negative po. But I suppose the question in a lot of people's minds is 305 a representative sample? Is it a sufficient sample to tell us that we don't have the new variant in insignificant or in a volume that would show up?
Correct.
I mean, is it a representative sample?
So that's why we always qualify our statement, diba? Given the samples that we have not detected the variant, but we have detected other variants like the Hong Kong variant. There's really a Hong Kong variant. There's also a United Arab Emirates variant and other variants. So we found them in several areas of the country, and we are now coordinating with the Epidemiology Bureau. So ito lang gusto kong sabihin, when we started the 305, actually ang target talaga namin 768. Because the cost of doing it 305 lang or 768, pare-pareho lang, hindi masyadong magkakaiba because this is massive sequencing. Ang problema, kailangan na naming magbigay ng sagot doon sa IATF at sa ating pamahalaan kung ma-detect ba natin o hindi. That's the number one question. Tapos hintay kami ng mga samples from the airports, ikaunti lang din naman ang mga positives, no? So pero yung Philippine Genome Center kasi nagba-biobank kami ng lahat ng mga positives na natetest namin dito sa Quezon City at saka sa Angono, Calabarzon. So we have a fairly good sample size ng mga hospitalized patients. So sabi namin kung merong community transmission o malalang kaso, di sana makikita natin sa hospital. So nag-Sunday na, wala pa rin. Kaunti lang yung nakuha naming samples from other places. Kasi kaunti nga yung, di ba, nag-close naman tayo ng airports. So anyway, we started with 305. So yung aming mga staff dito sa Philippine Genome Center, and you can understand, these are mostly young people. They started at 4 a.m. on a Sunday, 4 a.m. Una extraction ng RNA. Tapos pasa sa susunod na team that was for the sequencing part. Tapos overnight, nag-sequence sa isang malaking machine ito. Actually, we are very fortunate kasi our government through the CHED and also the Department of Science and Technology invested on these equipment for whole genome sequencing. Actually, sa Philippine Genome Center, marami po kaming equipment, hindi lang ito. No? Tapos, by Monday, we already have the results ng sequencing. Pero ang inatasan kami na hanapin yung UK variant, African variant, at saka kung Malaysian variant. At actually, hindi lang naman sila yung variants na hinahanap namin. Hinahanap namin lahat, anything that is interesting. And we were zeroing in on the S region, yung spike region. Siyempre, we were also nervous. Sabi ko, my heart is beating furiously. Andiyan na ba, ganon. Siyempre, di naman din namin, because officially the one who should give the results will be the Department of Health. No? This is the information has to be handled very sensitively. Diba? It has impact on the economy, on people's travel, etc., etc. So we already gave a heads up to the DOH, but it took us about 5 hours more to make the formal report. So nakita namin wala. In a way, we breathed a sigh of relief. Tapos lumabas nga yung Hong Kong story na yon na hindi ko naman maintindihan. So, gusto ko lang sabihin sa inyo na yung 305 is definitely not representative of the entire variants that we can find in the Philippines, hindi po. Kaya po pinagpapatuloy natin yung ating sequencing at inaanyayahan namin, actually we are really coordinating with the Epidemiology Bureau na any area in the country where you notice a certain spike, ipadala na sa Philippine Genome Center because we will do this for the whole year. No? So, Oo, siyempre, undersampled tayo. Mindanao, wala pa tayo masyadong samples, di ba?
Ma'am, pero nagulat kami, sinabi niyo may Hong Kong variant, may UAE variant.
Yes.
Are these
That's
variants
so
to be
surprising, yeah.
Oh my dear.
Are we supposed to be worried about these variants, or are they
No.
insignificant?
They have been described for a while. So actually, there are different kinds of variants. If you notice, sinasabi ko palagi na itong virus na ito, kasi it's, I think, the most closely studied virus in the world. Ito ngayon kasi. Tapos syempre may mga next generation sequencing machines tayo all over the world, and people are really sharing data. So nakadeposit sa database more than 200,000 whole genome sequences na na-deposit sa pangalan ng database. Ito is called GSABE, no? The Global Initiative for Sharing All Influenza Data. Itong GSABE na database na ito actually is also an offshoot of the desire of the scientific community na mag-share ng data dahil nga sa flu, influenza, at saka sa SARS din, ano? So, mga 12,000 and more na ang mga variants or mutations na
12,000?
natin. More than 12,000. But sinabi natin, yung 12,000 na ito, some of them are really, sabi natin, neutral mutations. Kung baga, kahit may mutations, parang wala namang consequence. Lang yung...
Teka, Doc, pwede bang bago kayo magpatuloy, ha? Kasi nalilito na nga rin kami. May pagkakaiba ba yung mga terminologies na yan? Variant, mutation,
sige,
strain.
Sige. Ay, maganda.
Yung tatlong yan. Ano ba ibig sabihin?
So we will begin with strain. Okay, strain. So meron tayong iba-ibang strains ng coronavirus. One is, for example, MERS is a strain. Tapos SARS is a strain, yung number 1, no? At saka yung SARS-CoV-2 is a strain. Tapos, lahat ng may mga mutations dito, tinatawag nating variant. So, pag sinabi nating mutation, yung, di ba, yung ating virus, the total genome size, at least yung reference, yung genome, sinadabi natin yung total genetic material niya. So, yung pwede siyang DNA, pwede rin siyang RNA. Itong virus natin, RNA tayo, humans, ang ating genetic material, DNA na. Okay. So, yung virus na ito, ang size niya is about 29,903 nucleotides. So, yung mga adenine, AGCP, di ba, yung sa DNA na sequences. So, kung meron dyan mutation sa isang letra, sinasabi natin mutation. Tapos, itong mutations na ito, sinasabi ko palagi, hindi naman palaging deleterious ang term na ginagamit. Deleterious. Or damaging. It's not necessarily a deleterious mutation. It can be neutral mutation, di ba?
What effect? Parang
What effect?
Yes.
So pwede siya. Pero itong S region kasi, di ba, spike region, binabantayan ng lahat. Bakit? Kasi nang lumabas yung sequence from China, which was really good kasi they shared it to the global community in early January, immediately within 48 hours, ang Moderna nakadesign agad ng vaccine. Grabe, no? Kasi, tiningnan nila yung sequence doon na binigay share ng China, and immediately nakita nila yung spike region. Based on the spike region na sequence, nag-design sila ng vaccine. So, that's why itong mga bagong variant ng Africa at saka ng UK, medyo talagang not interesting, but it's also alarming kasi yung mutations nila nag-occur sa spike region.
Pero Doc, yun yung tanong ng mga tao. Ngayon, nabanggit nyo, yung Moderna, nakapag-design ka agad in response to this. But what does that mean for the vaccines? Ganun ba yun? Tuwing may lalabas, kailangan may baguhin na naman dun sa bakuna? Yan kasi yung kaba ng mga tao. Are we back to square one?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Number one is, malaki naman yung spike region. Pwede naman na yung mutation hindi necessarily nag-occur sa kanya. At saka during the vaccination process din naman, actually yung immune response natin, iba-iba namang klaseng antibodies ang dinigenerate. Tapos ngayong gabi lang, nagpalabas din yung they did an analysis in Texas. Ginamit nila yung blood ng mga previously immunized. Tapos syempre may antibodies sila doon. Ginamit nila yung antibody, gin-challenge nila yung virus na mutated. And then it was able to prevent the growth and proliferation.
Nakaya nung vaccine.
Nakaya siya. That's the first news na. Yun din naman ang Moderna na nakita nila yung mutation, sabi nila most likely okay. Pero gusto ko rin sabihin na, syempre ngayon kasi early phase pa to ng virus, there might come a time that we will have a version 1 or a version 2 or a version 3 of a vaccine. Just like...
Actually, Doc, yun yung gusto kong tanongin eh. Kasi ngayon, for the past few days, yan yung headline. Basta may bagong variant. Naku, headline kagad. May bagong variant. No, but yun yung tanong ko. How should we take it? How should people take it every time they read in the news na, oh, may dalawa na namang variant, may tatlo na namang variant. Ano bang level ng concern namin? Or does it not necessarily say anything? Pagka nalaman nating may bagong variant. And for that matter, are you telling us na, alam nyo, tanggapin nyo na lang, dadami pa yung variant, mag-ready na tayo?
Excellent question yan. Kasi sa evolution ng virus, natural talagang marami siyang mutations. Oo, natural talaga. In fact, itong coronavirus slowly mutating. Compared mo siya sa influenza, sa HIV, ang coronavirus is slowly mutating. So pag sinabing variant, hindi tayo umalma dapat kasi natural sa evolution ng virus na magkakaroon siya ng variation. Every time mag-multiply siya, pwede siya magkaroon ng isa o dalawang changes.
Ang problema lang naman dyan, doctor, natatakot mga tao kasi sabi nga nila, it's highly contagious, highly transmissible. So,
itong in UK.
Sa UK.
Grabe.
And even the South African variant.
Correct. Sabi na daw nila, baka yung South Africa mas malala pa, no?
So may capability ba? Anong capability natin to detect?
Dito?
Do we have enough? Kasi sabi nila yung 305 daw
not enough.
It's not enough.
Correct.
So kaya ba natin actually na ma-detect?
So, kung sa sequencing lang, kaya natin siya ma-detect. It's important, pero it's always a function of sampling, di ba? It's always a function of sampling. Kaya, ngayon, lahat ng positive sa airports pinapadala sa atin. We will sequence, okay? Now, lahat ng positive. Lahat ng airports, pero ngayon, mukhang Metro Manila pa lang, hindi ko alam yung Cebu kung ipadala na, no? Pero they were given a directive na lahat na nag-positive sa airports sa nasa listahan na may mga UK reports, pinapadala sa atin. Kaso kaunti lang ang napapadala sa atin kasi kaunti lang naman din talaga nag-positive. Number 1 yan. Number 2, tinitingnan ng ating Epidemiology Bureau yung buong Pilipinas, parang kung may lugar na medyo maraming lumalabas, di ba? Yun, sinasabihan sila, ipadala nyo rin yan sa amin kasi i-whole genome sequence din namin yun. So actually, di ba sabi ko sa inyo, gusto namin 700. Hindi nga mapupuno-puno yung 700. Kasi mayroon din pala tayo amin na na kailangan. Kailangan yung city value ng RT-PCR, di ba nag-RT-PCR? Kailangan yung viral load mataas. Ibig sabihin, kasi yun din naman ang characteristic ng virus na ito. Ang viral load niya mataas, city value should be below 30. Kasi na-notice namin na pag ganun, ma-assemble mo yung entire genome. Kumbaga, yung buong sequence niya ma-assemble.
Ano yung pagbabantay natin, doctor, sa Sulu? Kasi they're worried na baka daw tumalong doon from Malaysia, di ba?
Totoo. So,
meron ba tayong monitoring doon?
Ang ginawa namin, una, yung 305 namin, ni-test din namin kasi nga merong tanong na ang gusto ko lang ibahagi sa inyo na yung variant ng Malaysia na nakita nila sa Sulu na parang may cluster kasi sila ng several cases doon ito siya, alam niyo yung D614G, di ba? Practically, ito na yun sa atin, D614G. Doon, sa position 701, meron din siyang alanine to valine na change. So kung ako titingin sa alanine to valine, sa molecular biology, yung alanine at valine na amino acids, pagkalapit masyado, kung kami mag-isip noon, it's like a neutral change, kahit may signature siyang 701. Kung kami titingin, parang ang driving talaga ng kanyang infectivity is still the D614G. Pero tinignan natin din yung 305 natin, wala. So sinasabihan namin yung taga Mindanao na if magpadala kayo ng mga samples dito, isama natin sa ating sequence. In fact, nahirapan kami magparami ng aming isi-sequence kasi hindi naman lahat nagpapadala. Number 1, kasi syempre may limitation sa airline, right? Number 2, yung iba hindi na nagbabayo-bank. So yung ba tinapon nila?
Doc, what is the possibility that there can be a Philippine variant? Hindi ko maintindihan yung...
Possibility talaga yan. Possibility talaga. So ganito, simula noong Marso, di ba, may may UP kit na ginawa, no? So kami sinequence namin yung mga volunteer patients sa PGH, no? So tinitingnan namin actually kasi meron kaming project dito na genomic biosurveillance, sponsored ito ng DOST-PCHRD, yung Philippine Council for Health Research and Development. Originally yung target namin 150, 1,000, 2,000 lang. Ikaso dumabas nga itong mga UK variant. Hindi isinama na rin namin sa project namin ito.
Okay.
Itong project. So itong sinasabi, talagang hinahanap namin kung baka, kasi pwede talaga siya mag-mutate locally, no? So tinitingnan namin, so how do we do that? Individually, bawat sequence ng AGCT ng 29,901, minamap namin yan. Tapos tingnan namin kung marami siya o kaunti, marami siya kaunti. Number 2, na-describe na ba itong mutation na ito sa database o wala? Bago ba siya o hindi? Tsaka pwede kasi na yung mutation, di ba, combination, hindi lang yung isa. Combination. So, kinu-continue namin ang pagmamap niyan. So, yung 305 namin, nakita namin na yung ating local 305, may sarili din siyang signature. Pero, na-describe na siya elsewhere. So, for example, hindi natin nakita si 501. Yung 501 yun yung distinct feature ng UK at saka ng Africa, South Africa.
Ma'am, I mean, ngayon nabanggit niyo nga, marami namang features, maraming pagkakaiba dito sa ibang variants, and lahat naman sinasabi niyo okay pa, hindi pa tayo nagpapanik. But what are you watching out for? Is there a particular feature na pagka nakita niyo, ito medyo iba na pinag-uusapan natin dito?
Actually, for example, itong UK variant, iba to. Sa totoo lang, iba to. Kasi saan ba nag-occur ang kanyang mutation? Doon mismo sa rehiyon kung saan nagko-contact yung virus sa ating receptor. Kaya sinasabi nila na baka highly infectious siya kasi baka maganda kumapit. Doon talaga siya. And that is may data naman talaga in vitro lang. Siyempre wala naman talaga pasyente na pa-infect. No? Pero sa cells, nakikita nila mas maganda yung stability ng pag-attach ng virus doon. Most likely may advantage na itong mutation na ito. So, yun, tinitingnan namin yung region na yun. At saka, Robbie, hindi lang yan. Tinitingnan din namin yung mga region ng kits, yung RT-PCR kits. Di ba iba-iba yung targets nilang genes? So, tinitingnan natin kung may mga mutations dyan at baka robust pa ba yung RT-PCR kits. Hindi lang itong mga regions na to. Kasi
you're talking about testing. So are you saying that all of the RT-PCRs that we use now, the antigen test, the PCR, they can all detect the variant? Ganun ba yun?
So far, lahat sila nagpagawa ng report kasi they have to, post-market analysis, etc., and also to reassure the laboratory. So, iba-ibang kit companies ng RT-PCR nagpalabas na sila na based on in silico analysis. Hindi sila apektado kasi kaunti lang talaga ang kits na nag-target ng S region eh. Ibang regions ng genome ang kanilang ORF1, ibang genes ang tinarget nila. So, marami. Kung mayroon namang iba din na naapektado, for example, TACPAF is affected, itong kit nila. Kaso nga lang, multiple din kasi yung targets niya. Tatlo yung targets niya. So, kahit nag-mutate yung isa, may dalawa pang pwede. So, kaya naalala ninyo, naggawa sila multiplex PCR. Backup na sila ito kasi just in case mag-mutate yung isang region, may dalawa pang pwede.
Dr. Saloma, we've been talking about the complications and mahirap talaga yung ginagawa nyo. But we've been talking about the challenges at your level. But what about at the level of the individual? I mean, notwithstanding lahat ng nabanggit nyo, lahat ng complications, what does that mean for how individuals are currently behaving right now? Are we doing enough? Yung mask ba na nasanay na tayo, yung face mask, social distancing, all the best practices that we have, okay pa rin lahat yan, ha? Wala tayong kailangang
ibahin. Bakit? Hindi naman nag-iba yung mode of transmission ng virus. Dito pa rin siya papasok, di ba? Ganun pa rin. So for as long as we practice yung minimum health standards, actually maganda talaga na nag-shield tayo feeling ko. Kasi
Doktora, diretsuhin ko lang. Yung sinasabi na, mas infectious yan. it doesn't mean na mas magaling yan tumagos sa face mask ko. That's not
Hindi.
Okay.
Tama, very good point yan. Hindi. So, ganun pa lang, for as long as we practice yung ating minimum health standards, may variant man dito, wala. Tapos gumamit tayo ng face shields kasi alam mo naman tayo kung minsan kalahati ang mask na ginagamit natin, na-notice ninyo. Kaya maganda yung another layer ng face shield na yan. At saka we keep on yung physical distancing. Very, very important yan. Huwag tayong mag-mass gathering. Please avoid mass gathering kasi it is a potential super spreading event. Okay? Tapos, yung physical distancing, frequent hand washing, yun pa rin yung ating panlaban.
Okay.
And then last na lang, in the hospitals ba dapat ina-isolate yung mga, kung sakali lang, yung mga may variant, yung ganon, from the ones with the original, or pare-pareho lang yung treatment
pare-pareho lang. Pero from
I
the
see.
epidemiology side, syempre kung saan man ni-notice ito, talagang pupuntahan yung region na yan at i-test kung may spike, kasi i-test sila lahat. Oo, yung paigihin lang talaga yung ang ating isolation, ganyan.
Alright.
Okay. Dr. Cynthia Saloma ng Philippine Genome Center. Ma'am, really fascinating to listen to somebody talk so passionately about gene sequencing.
Yes. Thank you. Very
Maraming
good.
salamat po.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Doc.
Salamat.
Thank you.
So we'll just go into break, so please stay with us. And welcome back to the Chiefs. We are now in the final stage of our conversation, and joining us tonight is Philippine Ambassador to the US, Jose Manuel Babes Romualdez. Ambassador Romualdez, thank you for joining us and welcome to the Chiefs.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Hello, Ambassador.
Hi, hello.
Good morning,
Hi,
there.
Good morning.
Roddy.
Good morning, Ambassador.
Good morning
I mean,
there.
good morning to you. Good morning to me. Good evening to you.
Well, sir, you were quoted as saying earlier that several Filipinos apparently took part in that controversial event at the Capitol building. Have we been able to confirm this? And have any Filipinos been involved in the arrests that had been made
No,
by
well,
US
actually,
authorities?
yeah, there were actually sightings of Asian Americans, and we've been able to confirm just one. I think the photo came out. I'm not sure whether it came out in the Star, but
The one with the
Walis.
walis.
with the Walis, yes. So it was quite clear that it was a Filipino. But we are not sure about the others because there were several who were seen. But Asians, Malaysians, and Indonesians can look alike in Filipinos, so we're not sure about
Ambassador, linawin ko lang po yung detail. This was a Filipino or Filipino-American?
It was a Filipino-American, definitely.
Okay.
Out of they're
Yeah.
probably from out of state. I mean, out of DC. No, they come from mostly from the Midwest. No?
Bakit daw may dalang walis? What's the symbolism for him?
You know,
Wala pala yun ngayon, no? Weapon na.
Pati kami, we were shocked. It was so clear that sino ba nagdadala ng walis, So we were wondering what it was all about. But I
Symbolic
guess
daw,
it's
sir,
just
Galing
Symbolic.
Baguio pa.
Symbolic daw.
Malinaw na
Symbolic.
Baguio.
well,
It's
that's
supposed
probably
to
what it is,
symbolize a cleanup daw of
There
the
you go.
electoral.
That's a good interpretation, I guess, of how far.
But Ambassador, in all seriousness, Ambassador, kahapon pinag-uusapan namin ni Ami, one misfortune of Filipinos here, and for that matter, anybody living in a developing nation, scenes like that are unfortunately not necessarily new to us.
Of course.
All over Asia. I mean, there are many countries that say, sa amin nga, yung riot, sa loob, nagsusuntukan yung mga parliamentarians. And so,
That's true.
yeah, but frame it for us, for Americas, and I think that's part of the shock of the whole world. Parang we've gotten used to this in so many countries, but for America, this is really, really different. Frame it for us, how it hit the Americans and their own perception of what is going on in our country.
No, absolutely. I mean, I have not talked to any American that was not shocked of what happened the other day at the Capitol. First of all, that place is supposed to be one of the most secure areas, especially after 9/11. So that one was really already a big shocker to them. But the mere fact that they were able to go in, and it was actually, it was described as a mob rule, no? And, Americans are usually used to protests, especially here in D.C. We have that almost every week, even during the pandemic. But this one was really something else. It's really one for the books. So that they were all shocked. And now they're really, this is the first time we've heard this on many occasions in our country, the rebellion issue. Now they're looking at sedition and rebellion being charged against the current occupant of the White House. And there's really serious thought now about letting him step down using the 25th Amendment, even if he reacted yesterday that he came out with another video, but came too late. But people are still talking about it. So it's a big story here. And I tell you, it's indescribable how much the feeling of most Americans have in what happened the other day. So
what's
how probable is that?
situation?
The 25th Amendment. How probable or feasible is that amendment being used? I don't think it's ever been used since 1957 when it was created.
No, they've never used it. First of all, it has to be initiated by Vice President Pence, which I understand is not too keen on that. Even if his feelings towards President Trump has already gone, I guess
Turned around.
He's quite angry.
Has there been any expression of concern from Malacanang? Because we know that President Duterte has special ties, of course, very friendly ties with President Trump. Have you been asked to convey any message to the White House?
No, we have not have any instructions coming from Malacanang nor Secretary Locsin. I think in this particular case, it's quite clear that we have to stay away from it. We did have good relations with the White House, with President Trump. But because of what happened, obviously, it's something that you really will not get ourselves involved in. Aside from the fact that President Duterte has already sent his congratulations to President Biden as almost a week and a half, or probably even less than that, about a week after November 3 last year. So I don't think that we're going to have any comment that we will make on what happened the other day, except, of course, that we're all, I guess, the feelings of most countries is that democracy here in the United States is supposed to be the model of what democracy is all about. But now, many Americans are embarrassed of what happened here. So you can just imagine.
But do you think that the dust has sort of settled already as it is, because the Senate has resumed its, well, at least the declaration of the winners has been done, and it seems like the Capitol is now looking normal, at least from where we sit, no, when we watch it on our TV sets. So do you think that the dust has settled, and they're just...
I wouldn't say the dust is settled, but the fact is it's now fait accompli. In other words, even President Trump, in not so many words, accepted the fact that he lost the election. But right now, Washington, D.C. is on alert. I think there's a continuing curfew from 6 a.m. to 6, from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And the entire District of Columbia is very much, we have a lot of security that's going around, especially here in the embassy area. In fact, we were, a lot of us and my colleagues, we were all invited to the inauguration, and we're in the beginning, of course, we were concerned about the virus, so we had to wear masks. Now we're even joking around that we may have to wear bulletproof vests. But that's
yeah, you might.
Yes. What are the chances that terrorists might take advantage of this very unruly situation?
Well, I think that I think is already been reduced to a minimum, because I think the National Guard has been called in already, and the security in the Capitol, from what we are told, is now almost triple of what they were going to do in the first place.
Wow.
So the security here in Washington, D.C. is really at its highest level right now.
Okay. In any case, Mr. Ambassador, we are all now looking forward to that transition, a peaceful transition, as President Trump has now also assured. Looking ahead to that, what do you now anticipate with a Biden presidency, particularly with respect to our relations with America? Will anything change?
Well, personally, I don't think there's going to be much change in how we have our relationship in this country. First and foremost, I think the relationship we had, especially when it comes to our mutual defense treaty, will remain. That's one of the main concerns that we were asking when we had a little bit of an informal interaction with some of the Biden people. That if the policy, especially on the South China Sea, will be maintained, which is to recognize our arbitral award and so forth and so on, and all that will remain, because I think at this point in time, that policy is already in place, and that the United States will continue to see the Chinese incursions in the area as already what they're calling as unlawful and illegal. That is the words that they have used, and they will continue to have that kind of policy. And now in other areas, yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Trump has always been a hardliner when it comes to trade. He played hardball with China. Will you think that will continue with Biden?
I think with the Biden administration, there'll be some cooperation in some trade that they feel is important. But I think the paramount importance now for the Biden administration is climate change. They feel that China and the United States have to work together as far as that's concerned. Now, on the trade issues, there are quite a number of those issues that have to be resolved. But I think it'll be more confrontational than before, because I think both countries realize that trade between these two countries is absolutely important, especially after this pandemic. All countries are trying to see how they can reboot their economies, and certainly we are also trying to get into the picture by trying to get some of the businesses that have been told to start moving out of China, or at least start diverting to other parts of Asia. And that's one of the things that we're working on the economic front, as far as what we're doing here in Washington.
But will Biden continue the America First policy?
Yes.
I mean, he has already said that he might.
Yes.
Right? He might. Actually.
Well, the America First policy is something that most Americans now feel is something that should be continued, in the sense that obviously there are a lot of jobs that have been lost, and they want to reboot that. And that one thing that President Trump was able to do was precisely to start moving many of those jobs here, because the incentives are being made and so forth and so on. So I think that the Biden administration will carry that through, but not quite the same. It's going to be like a hybrid type of. It is really something to watch, because it's really a balancing act between trying to cooperate with China on many issues, but it's also confronting China on many other issues, which is very important to the United States also. And in particular, we're talking about what I just said about the South China Sea, for instance.
Yeah, Mr. Ambassador, beyond outside of trade and outside of security, I asked my question about a Biden presidency, or for that matter, a Democrat presidency, because as we recall, President Duterte had some experience with a Democrat president, outgoing President Obama. That was a bit testy. That was rather testy. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I'm just wondering if any of that do you expect carries over to Biden, given his values, given the Democrats being a more activist side to the U.S. Politics, and the association with Obama, and on the other hand, very, very friendly relationship with Trump, who steered clear of issues like human rights and so on. What do you anticipate on that front?
Well, we anticipate that there will be, all these issues will be, they have been consistently being discussed even before the Trump administration. There's always been issues that have been thrown our way, as far as human rights, and also even freedom of the press. No, those are issues that have been discussed for so many years now. We had some interaction with some Democratic senators. We've made it clear to them that it's not as if we're turning a blind eye on all of these things. We take note of all of the things that they've been saying. And I think that there's been some improvement, in my view, at least from the reports that I get here, on those human rights issues that have been discussed in the past. Like, for instance, we've pointed out to them that how many police officers have been dismissed, for instance, and that there's now a better control on how arrests are being made, and so forth and so on. Now, on the other issue of freedom of the press, I know that the Maria Ressa is still foremost in their minds, but we were just comparing very recently. In fact, just 2 days ago, there was a State Department notice to Vietnam that they were concerned about the arrest of three journalists in Vietnam, for instance, and we are not even in the list of those that are supposed to be a suppression of the press. Like Vietnam is there, and even I can't remember some other countries, Saudi Arabia and other parts. So again, it's a challenge, but I think at the end of the day, what's important to the United States is the importance of our relationship as far as security is concerned. That's really where it is. And that's why the Visiting Forces Agreement is one of the cornerstones of our Mutual Defense Treaty. And that is the one that we will have to continue to discuss with them down the road during the Biden administration, on how we're going to proceed in making sure that our relationship continues and remains the same.
But do you think that President Duterte will continue with this? I mean, the threat that he's going to abrogate the VFA, although he has extended it, and that has been postponed. How does that look right now?
Well, of course, the president has a prerogative to do that, and I know that the threat is still there. But I think more importantly, we have to know that there's always been a lot of controversy surrounding the Visiting Forces Agreement in terms of what could be. And then this is what we have been pointing out, and I think Secretary Lorenzana has already spelled out what are the things that we need to take up as far as improving. Okay, the word, for lack of any other word, improving the VFA. These are the things that will be discussed hopefully within the next 6 months, as soon as the Biden administration is in place, and see how we can how we can now improve our relationship as far as our security relationship with the United States. But that is, I think, the number one importance that they put on right now, aside from the fact that they would like to maintain good relations with an old ally like ours.
So we have not lost our leverage there, you think? I mean, with the presidency.
I don't like to call it a leverage. I'd like to just say that issues have to be discussed, and one thing for sure is that it's very important for the Philippines now more than ever, and quite honestly, now that I'm here in Washington D.C., it's very important for us to also stand up a little bit on several issues, because if we cannot continue to just simply agree on everything, there has to be some disagreements on some issues that we feel is not really good for us. No, like for instance, there is no clear path on how relationships will be made. For instance, with China, the United States has their own interests to protect, and so do we. And I think that that's one thing that we have learned from all of this so-called issues and controversies surrounding relationships with China, the United States, and the VFA, is that there are things that we need to be able to point out to this country that we have our own interests to protect also, which is very important. And I think that whatever you say about President Duterte's style of diplomacy, he has made it clear to this country that you cannot just continue to take us for granted for everything that you want from us. There are certain things that you need to do to be able to actually, we can rightfully say that you and I are allies and really close friends. And again, yes, Annie.
The latest word from the president was he would push through with the abrogation of the VFA if the US doesn't give us those Pfizer doses. What's the latest on the vaccine procurement? Any good news?
Well, of course. Okay. Well, first of all, when the president said that, obviously, you can just imagine how many people called me here in Washington, D.C. right after. Number one, of course, was the Pentagon, and then shortly after the State Department, and then shortly after several senators.
So it was
one after the other. Well, first of all, I had to get some information from Secretary Locsin, and of course from some of our friends, Secretary Bedaldea and the rest. I think that this is the president's style of really saying, in kung sa Tagalog, kung magkaibigan tayo, magtulungan tayo, pero let's not keep talking about all sorts of promises, pero wala rin mangyayari. So basically, I think that that's the message that he wanted to convey. That we have this Visiting Forces Agreement, which is basically for our mutual interest. This is one very important issue, which is the vaccines, which we need very badly, and there's no clearly it's important. Now, what effect did that have? Of course, there was a lot of concern. Again, for lack of any other word, but more importantly, is it true? Are we going to have? Can you tell us what the plans are? And so I tried to explain it in the best way I could to many of our friends here in Washington, that this is really something that we need, and you need to help us on this one. Because if we are, in fact, really close allies, if you're going to help countries like Singapore and other countries like Vietnam, why not the Philippines? Yeah. And I think that message was made clear. Now, what's the effect of that one? Well, I think Secretary Galvez has a lot of good news to say. Moderna and Pfizer will be ready to supply the Philippines with as much as we can absorb on the vaccines. Now, I told Secretary Galvez the other day that what I need from him really is just tell me when you've signed the contract with them and when they told you they're going to deliver it. Then we'll start working backwards and trying to ask, like Moderna is the one that's federally funded, we could possibly ask for early deliveries of some or a portion of those vaccines.
How early is
That's
early?
what we're going to be working.
How early is
Well,
early?
right now, I can tell you the delivery is sometime in July. That is more or less what they're saying. We're going to try to push it back a little earlier, perhaps maybe, if possible, maybe at the April, at best, March.
Next week.
But that's really...
But Ambassador,
Well,
I mean,
can
Ambassador,
tell you that...
maybe we certainly appreciate all the efforts, but give us an idea, because the reality that everybody appreciates is we're not the only ones trying to get further ahead in the line.
Right.
And you know, everybody, all your counterparts are probably negotiating over the same thing, not just volume and not just access, but our place in the line. Tell us a bit about this entire process and what do you do? What can we say when everybody is saying the same thing, that we want to get it sooner?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, that right now, the information that was given to me, just for the Pfizer vaccine alone, there's already a back order of 5 billion doses.
Wow.
So just think about that. And there are about 180 countries that need its vaccines. And of course, they're saying that that Pfizer has the best, and Moderna is not too far behind because of the 95% efficacy. So the demand is so high that if these companies really just wanted to take advantage of the situation, they can very well command any price and whoever has highest bid. Now, in fairness to Pfizer, they have gone out of their way to accommodate us, and they're privately funded. They have a presence in the Philippines. They've been around for a long time in the Philippines, and they're a 170-plus-year-old pharmaceutical company.
Yeah,
they're giving it to us at what the price should, a price range that I think is quite reasonable. I have no idea. It's Secretary.
But that, Ambassador, you would disabuse as well as assure us of that point, because I think the common thinking of any Filipino or any person would be, wala, matatalo tayo sa mas mayayaman. Yeah, you can assure everyone that no, it does not actually boil down to money.
No, it doesn't boil down to that, but it boils down to how quickly we can react to it, and that's the reason why. There are many countries that took chances right away. The Prime Minister Abe, the former Prime Minister, he bypassed his health secretary and just simply went ahead and ordered for the Pfizer. So they are ahead already. Singapore is the same thing. Yeah. They immediately, when Pfizer said that we are ready to take in the orders, they immediately paid for it, and that was it. So it's really a question of how quickly we can. Now, I think in our case, we do have the resources. Secretary Dominguez has told me on many occasions, he says we have the money. But how quickly we can react now. This is where our problem really is, and that is the bureaucratic system that we have that I think is being addressed or has been addressed, that the president can now bypass now. It's the bidding process, the process. They did away with the FDA. I understand that it had 4 phases of how you can get the approvals. All of that has been sort of like scrapped, and now they're trying and look at that emergency use in other countries of this vaccine, like Pfizer and Moderna, can automatically be used as a basis for us to approve it. No, it's a sense of urgency, I think, that's important to point out here, and that's what we're reacting to that now.
Okay.
But we should take comfort in the fact that we are not going to be left sort of like in the lurch that we will not have any vaccine. We will have the vaccines. We will have enough vaccines by the middle of this year. Hopefully we can get it earlier, because we do need it early for many of the people who are working in the front lines. In fact, I even suggested that I really have this very, I feel very bad for many of the overseas workers who lost their jobs, but as soon as they can get the vaccine, they can go back to work.
Okay.
So that's really where it is.
Ambassador Romualdez, maraming salamat. We will take your word for this, that this is a very reassuring statement from
Please
you.
don't take my word. I'm just one of those.
We'll hope on it then. We will hope on it. All right.
I have a lot of confidence that and right now I'm very happy that Moderna and Pfizer have been talking to us, and they're now in touch with Secretary Galvez, and I'm quite happy with Secretary Galvez, because the people at Pfizer and Moderna have been telling me that they're very pleased with their negotiations with Secretary Galvez. So basically, we're in good hands, so to speak.
Okay.
Salamat, sir. Thank you
very much. Very
Happy
nice
New
to see
Year,
you.
sir. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I mean, nice to see you. You're in the office. Nice to see you at the Star. Give my regards to the rest of our friends there.
I'm in the Star.
Okay. Salamat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ed, Lucci. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and that will be all for this weekend edition of the Chiefs. 3 more days before Monday, but we hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. I'm Ed Linga of One News.
I'm Mami Paminton of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucci Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News.